Working hours, work pace, and time for recuperation. Working hours, work pace, and time for rest and recuperation is the fourth determinant area of importance for the ability and wish to work, and is found in the first sphere of determination for a sustainable working life, the health effects of the work environment. Time is attributed to different properties. Time can mean money in the production, or a stick to keep up, time to manage social media accounts, time to exercise and live healthily, time to take care of and manage homes, garden, etc., time for leisure activities, club activities, voluntary work, etc., time to lend to our social relations, for example, children, friends, grandchildren, parents, co-workers, etc. We usually say that time heals all wounds, that the time is right, or that time is out of joint. We kill time or pass time, or we're ahead of or behind time. However, the most important thing to be said about time is that time is equal for all. Everyone has the same amount of time during 24 hours. The experience of lack or abundance of time depends on how we spend it, and how much or how little we schedule for every 24 hours, as well as what we prioritize during our lifetime. Time also has to do with pace. If one has a very fast pace in an activity, for example at work, one will be able to get more things done during a certain period of time. At least most people think so. However, what one does not prioritize or can do during a day regarding activities and tasks at work, physical exercise, as well as rest and sufficient sleep, one needs to pay back in time for this during another day. That is, if the pace in different activities and work pace affects time for rest and rest pace, then we have to or need to compensate for this another day. In the best case scenario, this means that we take a break, a pause, a day off, a weekend off, or a holiday. In the worst case scenario, we must rest because we have gotten ill by the lack of recuperation. The time during our 24 hours needs to contain both sufficient time for activities and sufficient time for rest and recuperation, especially in the fast pace of most Western societies today, as well as in the fast pace of social media. It's important to remember that what constitutes pace and recuperation varies between different people. Recuperation after a powerful stress reaction in a sedentary and low-paced activity needs to contain time for recuperation in high activity, for example through physical exercise, in order to let the stress hormones, increased levels of glucose and fatty acids in the bloodstream, etc., be consumed and to let the body regain equilibrium and homeostasis. In a passive and one-sided work situation, the time for recuperation needs to contain a lot of creative work and stimuli for our cognitive functions. However, if we spend a lot of time with cognitive work, with lots of pictures, texts, and different impressions during a day, a quiet nature experience, watching clouds in the sky, trees swaying, flowers in bloom, and running water, may be just what we need in order to recuperate. In a physically demanding activity, when muscles have worked hard, we need to let our muscles and bodies have a calmer time for recuperation, in order to let the body repair damaged muscles, dispose of waste products, and control the functions of the cells and inner organs. In other words, there's not one single way to recuperate. It entirely depends on the previous activity. Therefore, work pace and time for recuperation is based on the need for variation and for the body to reach equilibrium and homeostasis between activity and recuperation in all functions, physical as well as mental. However, It's important that there's equal time for fast-paced activities and a high level of recuperation in the long run. In working life, the possibility of rest and recuperation from working hours, work pace, as well as the access to take breaks and pauses is closely related to the physical and mental work environment. Working hours, work pace, and time for rest and recuperation affect the individual's physical, mental, and cognitive health and well-being. Insufficient time for rest has a positive effect on biological healing processes and cell division, physiological activity in the inner organs, and cognitive functions like memory. In Sweden, fatigue, sleep disorders, and sleeplessness is almost a public disease and is in the top of the list of countries in the European Union where the population suffers from sleep disorders. More than half of the population state that they suffer from fatigue, which has increased during later years and is the largest in the younger age groups. The proportion of the population suffering from fatigue in 2008 was 45% in the age group of 16 to 29-year-olds, 47% of people aged 30 to 44 years, and 47% of people aged 46 to 64 years. This should be compared with the year 2018, when 61% of 16 to 29-year-olds, 59% of people aged 30 to 44 years, and 57% of people aged 44 to 64 years of age suffered from fatigue. The proportion of the population in Sweden suffering from sleep disorders has also increased and is the largest in the older age groups. The proportion of the population suffering from sleep disorders in year 2008 was 23% in the age group 16 to 29-year-olds, 27% of people aged 30 to 44 years, and 37% of people aged 46 to 64 years of age. This should be compared with year 2018, when 35% of 16 to 29-year-olds, 37% of people aged 30 to 44 years of age, and 33% of people aged 44 to 64 years stated that they suffered from sleep disorders. Lack of sleep and sleep disorders can affect people's cognition and concentration and increase the risk of accidents. Many work-related accidents, as well as traffic accidents, are caused by fatigue or sleep disorders. Between 15 and 20% of traffic accidents are estimated to be caused by fatigue and exhaustion. Stress and tension during work, anxiety and pain are also related to general sleeping disorders, and these result in lack of rest and recuperation. In order to cope with and be able to execute work tasks and life tasks in general, time to rest, recuperate, and heal is vital. Fatigue and tiredness seem to be a common reason for serious accidents, and for heavy traffic, the numbers seem to be even higher. Of all traffic accidents, about 4 out of 5 are connected to the driver's errors that may likely be caused by inattention and misjudgments. In this, fatigue and sleepiness, in other words, difficulties to stay awake and alert, has a certain matter, about 10 to 20%. A common cause for accidents related to fatigue is driving in the nighttime. In many cases, nighttime driving is also related to irregular working hours. Pauses and breaks may play a part, as well as whether the driver eats, drinks caffeine, or sleeps. The length of the drive can have indirect effects, since long-distance driving and long driving shifts prevent sufficient sleep. Additionally, a wide straight road with low traffic, possibly automatic transmission, reduced wind noise, cruise control, among other things, may contribute to less disturbances and increased monotony and relaxation, and therefore an increased risk of accidents. Furthermore, chronic diseases increases the risk of about 2 to 4 times for accidents related to fatigue. Mentally demanding work and issues in the work situation can contribute to employees having a hard time of letting go of work in their leisure time, and can cause sleep disorders and sleeplessness, which can result in fatigue. A tight work schedule in organizations and enterprises can be caused by financial and commercial circumstances and limits. In other words, by producing as much as possible with limited resources, and increased production due to turnover requirements or profit requirements. A tight work schedule can also be caused by industrial or organizational circumstances and limits, such as surges in activity in production, for example during certain times of the year when availability or demand or turnover of the manufactured product is higher. However, it may also be due to more absence from work due to illness or vacations during certain times, or a lack of sufficient and competent staff. Through the increased demographic changes in the aging society, with a larger amount of older citizens and fewer people active in the labor force, there's an increased risk of labor shortages in certain sectors and in certain countries. For example, there are fears of labor shortages within the public administration, education, care and healthcare, and above all in depopulated regions, where there's a risk of a larger amount of pensioners than people being active in the labor force in the future. Therefore, those who work risk having a tighter schedule in order to be able to catch up with the work tasks and maintain the organization. Getting tired and needing time for rest and recuperation is completely normal. Physical work and activities result in physical exhaustion of the body. On the other hand, mental work and activities, for example through communication, writing, and other thought-related work, result in mental exhaustion. In a too physically or mentally demanding work environment, as well as in an ill-fitting and demanding occupational circumstances, exhaustion can lead to fatigue, as well as excessive wear and tear, if there's no sufficient time for recuperation. If the brain becomes too tired by high mental demands, lack of recuperation, or damages, this can lead to mental fatigue, which takes a long time to recover from, and some people never fully recover. The cause of fatigue can be connected to the biological aging and problems with sight, hearing, mobility, the presence of chronic illnesses, as well as mental pressure and insecurity in hectic and demanding work environments. Therefore, accidents related to fatigue run a risk of increasing the biological aging. Fragmented sleep, which may occur in chronic illnesses as well as in mentally demanding circumstances, when we find it hard to relax, the daily rest can in severe cases be completely without any recuperative value, which results in an increased risk of falling asleep as a cause for accidents. The length of a period spent awake has equal importance, which means that a late night and early morning becomes twice as demanding for the employee working night shifts. The length and quality of sleep directly affects the level of alertness and security. Employees need to take breaks during a workday according to Directive 2003/88 EC of the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union. Breaks should be taken during working hours, so employees don't have to execute work tasks for more than 5 hours in a row. Breaks mean hiatus from the daily working hours and does not count as working hours. Employees are not required to stay in the workplace during a break. The number of breaks, their length, and when they are taken should be fully acceptable with regard to the working conditions. The employer should state the length of breaks and when they may be taken in advance, as carefully as the circumstances allow. Breaks may be replaced with meal breaks at the workplace, if it's necessary with regard to the working conditions. Meal breaks like these count as part of the working hours. What about pauses then? Well, pauses count as part of the working hours. The employer should organize work so that all employees can take pauses when needed, in addition to breaks. If the working conditions require it, special work pauses may be planned by the employer instead. Then the employer should state the length of the pauses and when they may be taken in advance, as carefully as the circumstances allow. Please take a few moments to consider and reflect on the following questions. How do you best recuperate from your physical activities? And how do you best recuperate from your mental or cognitive activities? Do you have sufficient time for recuperation in relation to your time for activity?